In the other federal criminal indictment against Donald Trump, the Trump documents indictment that's in federal court in Florida, you may have noticed in the news there's been some controversy. It's not exactly the right word. There's been some consternation about the federal judge overseeing that case. She's a Trump-appointed judge. She's very early on in her career. She's had very few hours on the bench actually overseeing any trials of any kind. And in terms of Trump specifically, she was very bluntly smacked down by an appeals court when she went way out of her way to side with Trump in a way that the appeals court said was very inappropriate in an earlier case related to him. That's the federal documents criminal case against Trump in Florida. There's no such controversy with the judge who will be overseeing this new indictment against Trump in Washington, D.C. The judge assigned to this case is named Judge Tanya Chutkan, C-H-U-T-K-A-N, Chutkan. She was nominated to the D.C. District Court in 2014 by President Barack Obama. And, not to be too reductive about it, but I don't think anybody would give you a good faith fight if you described Judge Chutkan as a normal judge, a very normal, uncontroversial, well-tested, good, mainstream, smart federal judge. I think that's pretty universally her reputation. I should also tell you this is not her first January 6th related case. She, again, sits in federal court in Washington, D.C., and that's where so many of the charges have been brought against hundreds of January 6th defendants. Judge Chutkan has presided over about 24 of the January 6th defendants' cases. For what it's worth, she has consistently handed down some very tough sentences in those cases when people have been found guilty. She is the only judge in any of the January 6 cases who's handed out longer sentences than DOJ prosecutors even asked for at sentencing. You should also know that this isn't Judge Chutkan's first time presiding over a legal matter that involves former President Donald Trump. In 2021, during the congressional investigation into January 6th, Trump sued to try and block congressional investigators from accessing some of his records from his time in the White House. In that lawsuit, Judge Chutkan ruled against Trump. She allowed the January 6th investigators to access his presidential records, and she did it in memorable terms. She wrote in her ruling, which you might remember, quote, "Presidents are not kings." That was Judge Chutkan. Let's bring in Andrew Weissmann again. He was, of course, one of the senior prosecutors on Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation. He also served as FBI general counsel. Andrew, on the issue of what's going to happen here next, do you have any impressions that you could share for us of Judge Chutkan and how she runs a courtroom, and also what we should expect on Thursday when Trump will be arraigned before her?
Well, everything you said about Judge Chutkan is exactly right in terms of her reputation. In general, the D.C. District Court has really excellent judges, and she is one of them. It's worth noting that she, prior to being on the bench, was a defense lawyer. She is not viewed as somebody who is, sort of, oh, you want to be in front of her because you're the government. She is one of those judges. You need to have your ducks in a row on no matter which side you're on. Doesn't suffer fools, and is no nonsense. And it's exactly what you want from a judge, regardless of what side you're on, if you want sort of a good result. And so I think with the arraignment on Thursday, those are usually pretty boring affairs in a normal case. Somebody enters a plea, there's issues of bail, there's conditions. She may, because of local rules, be interested in making sure that the defendant complies with the sort of free press, fair trial rules, which is to not make statements that could prejudice a prospective jury. That was something that we saw when I was in special counsel Mueller's team, and very famously, Roger Stone violated those, as did Paul Manafort. So I think the big issue for her is that there are now 3 trials. So you have Donald Trump, he's been indicted for crimes before, during, and after his presidency. And she is going to have to figure out when is she going to be able to slot in her trial. I don't know if that will come up at an arraignment. She will be interested, though, in moving the case along. She'll be very interested in whether discovery has been turned over. And I expect that we will hear prior to Thursday from the government a report about what they have done with respect to discovery. We saw that in the Mar-a-Lago case, and it's the way that the government can try and prompt the judge to try and be focused on a date prior to the general election.